House Tyrell had many members that were cut in the TV adaptation of Game of Thrones, with much of their roles merged into that of Margaery and Loras Tyrell, who play a much more active role in the story than, say, the likes of Willas Tyrell, or the subject of this video, Garlan Tyrell. Garlan, known as Garlan the Gallant, is a knight of House Tyrell and the second son of Lord Mace Tyrell and Lady Aellery Hightower. Sir Garlan has his own personal coat of arms he uses to adorn his robes and shield when in tourney, depicting 2 golden roses upon green, much like the arms of House Tyrell, to denote his status as a second son. Garlan is described as similar in appearance to his younger brother, Sir Loras Tyrell, rather than his older brother, Willas. But he is notably taller than Loras, and much more broadly built, with a neatly maintained beard. He is an exceptionally skilled swordsman, preferring to train against 3 or 4 swordsmen than one-on-one sparring, so as to better prepare himself for an actual battle where fighting one-on-one is not a given. But being more modest than his younger brother, and his lack of interest in gaining glory, makes him less famous than Loras with the wider population of Westeros. Garlan was born in 277 AC, and was, by all accounts, a plump boy in his youth. His elder brother, Willas, shrewdly dubbed him Gallant, to save him from the indignity that befell an uncle nicknamed Garth the Gross. When he came of age, he married Lady Lionette of House Fossaway. During the events as seen in A Clash of Kings, given that we know House Tyrell initially supported King Renly Baratheon during the War of 5 Kings, it is rightly assumed that Garlan also served Renly. However, after Renly is assassinated and House Tyrell does not go over to Stannis Baratheon, he too follows his kin in the alliance with House Lannister. Thus, Sir Garlan takes part in the Battle of the Blackwater as part of the last-minute arrival of the Lannister and Tyrell troops that ultimately caused the defeat of Stannis Baratheon and the Stormlanders. Garlan played the part of the late Renly Baratheon by dressing in his armour to scare the ignorant men-at-arms among Stannis Baratheon's army, something that clearly did work. Renly's ghost leads the joint Tyrell-Lannister army's vanguard and slays his opposing number, Sir Gyard Morrigan, in single combat. In the Red Keep following the battle, Garlan introduces Margaery Tyrell, his sister, and Renly's widow, to King Joffrey I Baratheon. Joffrey agrees to set aside his betrothal to Sansa Stark and instead marry Margaery. During the events as seen in A Storm of Swords, as a reward for the role he played in the Battle of the Blackwater, Garlan is raised to Lord of Brightwater Keep, the seat of the attainted House Florent, the house of the wife of Stannis Baratheon, Queen Selyse. It is presumed that this new House Tyrell of Brightwater Keep is technically a new cadet branch of House Tyrell, as in all accounts, Brightwater Keep was a good reward for Garlan, but also a hugely damaging punishment for House Florent at the same time. Garlan later speaks and dances with Sansa Stark during her wedding to Tyrion Lannister. Garlan attempts to assuage Sansa's fears about marrying Tyrion, given his ill reputation and Lannister connection. Garlan does this despite the fact that most of House Tyrell are actively avoiding any interaction with Sansa at this time, in the wake of their attempt to marry Sansa off to Willas Tyrell. Garlan remarks that Tyrion is a bigger man than he seems, and states that she would be happier with him than his younger brother Loras, which implies that he knows of his brother's sexual orientation. Garlan and his wife Lionette Fossaway later attend the doomed royal wedding of King Joffrey to his younger sister Margaery. While there, he speaks to Tyrion, praising his plans, which helped save King's Landing from Stannis Baratheon's forces, something many by this time seem to have forgotten. He goes on to tell Tyrion that he's made to do great deeds. He also rebukes Joffrey for publicly shaming Tyrion and destroying Tyrion's wedding gift, Lives of 4 Kings. Garlan unsuccessfully tries to save the boy king, when he later chokes to death. In the wake of Joffrey's death, while the Kingsguard meet at the White Sword Tower, Garlan guards the new king, Tommen I Baratheon, in the meantime. During the events as seen in A Feast for Crows, from King's Landing, Garlan brings half of the Tyrell strength back to the Reach to press his claim on Brightwater Keep, which is being held by a small number of Florent men, led by Sir Colin Florent. He is preparing to assault Brightwater Keep when news of the Ironborn's taking of the Shield Islands reaches him. Garlan quickly begins to gather men from across the Reach to retake the islands with his brother, Willas. Later, after the Queen Margaery is imprisoned by the Faith Militant, she tells Queen Regent Cersei Lannister that she would want Garlan to represent her in a trial by combat. Cersei explains that Garlan would not be able to represent the Queen because he is not a member of the Kingsguard, and until we see the Winds of Winter, that is all we currently know of Sir Garlan Tyrell. When Willas Tyrell was cut from the show, while I was disappointed, to some extent I do understand the choice to do so, given his role, while important, is done off-page, with him never physically appearing in the main books in person, thus giving his role as a proposed match for Sansa Stark to Loras is reasonable. Garlan, on the other hand, does have a more active role in the story, and plays a key part in battles and interacting with characters directly, such as Sansa, playing a minor role in the likes of the Purple Wedding. However, in terms of his actual role in driving the story forward, much like Willas, it's nothing that Loras could not do in his stead. For example, Loras being the one to dress as Renly during the Battle of the Blackwater. Thus, given the show was trying to lower the number of on-screen characters in their version of the world, I can sort of understand why Garlan was merged into Loras, much like Willas. However, I will say this, I find Garlan a really interesting character, and I love how he tries to comfort Sansa in some way in respect to her marriage with Tyrion, where most of his family in that time wouldn't even talk to Sansa given the current political situation. It says a lot about the kind of man Garlan is, and I'm interested to see what role he and Willas play in the Winds of Winter. Given the fate of House Tyrell in the show, I suspect the book will be their own thing altogether.